the Just Curious session of a discussion on the angry Black woman. We thank you so much for joining us today. I do want to go ahead and introduce our panel today, and I'm doing it just based on who I see on my screen. So first of all, I see my girlfriend, Siobhan Stanley.
Hey family, blessed to be here today. Thank you.
Welcome. We also have Angela Shaw.
Hello, everybody. I never get tired of talking about this topic.
We're so thankful to have her. She might look a little familiar. She also did a discussion on this. She actually did a TED Talk on this, on Break Busting, the angry Black woman stereotype. So look her up. We also have, yes, it is. We also have Tesenga Shay-Smith. She likes to go by Shay. So Shay, welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you, and we are so thankful that you're with us today. And we have Laurie Shiels.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to such a great talk today.
Thank you. These women collectively have, decades of experience dealing with women's issues, diversity and inclusion, women's mental health, also speaking on issues within Fortune 100 companies and Fortune 500 companies. So these women have a lot of experience in what they bring to this chat, to this discussion. And what we're hoping today is that you will find this to be something that is useful. First of all, we want to peel back this stereotype and just what's been our collective experiences in dealing with this. How do we navigate it going forward so that it doesn't do what it's intended to do, which is to silence us. So we want to, tear down those walls. And that's what we hope to begin to achieve today. Of course, we acknowledge that we would never be able to tackle this subject in one discussion. So a little bit about myself. I'm Regina Simmons. And one of the reasons why I chose to have this discussion is because of an experience that I had recently. It wasn't anything like super bad, but it was very disappointing for me. It made me feel very unsettled. So essentially just about a month ago, I was on vacation and went back to my hometown, which is Detroit, Michigan. And while I was there, I went to check on, and I'm gonna make this really short. I went to check on my storage facility. And when I got there, I had an encounter with the manager who was at the front desk assisting customers. And I let her know because they changed they cut the lock off because they thought there was a water leak. And then they put a new lock on. And I asked them to send me an email to document why they needed to do it and when and all of that, just as a customer. So anyway, long story short, this had happened during COVID. So I wasn't able to get back until almost a year later to sort it out. I asked the lady about the email. And she said, oh, well, you should have got the email. I said, well, actually, I didn't get the email. So she picks up the phone and dials her corporate office. And just from this, not even a full minute conversation, dials her corporate office and says, yeah, this woman here is angry that she didn't get her email. And I was just like, whoa, I was blown away that within a minute of me only saying that I didn't get an email, that she had already classified me as being an angry woman. And this woman was Caucasian, by the way. So I kept saying, after she got off the phone, I just said, by the way, I'm not angry. I'm just inquiring because I would like this information. I want to be clear on what to expect as a customer. And that was pretty much my tone with her the whole time. And she kept saying that I was angry. When other customers came in, she identified me as a situation. So a customer came in, wanted to pay his bill. And she was like, I'm sorry, I can't help you right now. I'm dealing with a situation. So essentially, it was that experience where it made me pause. And I said, you know what, we have to talk about this, because why did this lady think I was angry? I'm asking the same thing that any other customer would ask. So, I'm interested in hearing from our panelists, just some of the things that you all may have experienced, or, what does this title, this stereotype mean to you, and how acquainted are you with it? So with that, I want to go ahead and open it up, and I'm going to just look across. Who wants to jump in first?
I don't have a problem jumping in.
All right, go ahead. I'm gonna mute myself while you talk, though.
Okay, so I'll jump in. I'll kick it off. Again, I'm honored to be in this room with such beautiful and accomplished women. You know, I'm glad we're bringing voice to this. I'm a student as well as a contributor today. And, you know, when Regina talked about bringing this to light and discussing it, you know, immediately we thought about when I lived and worked in San Francisco, California, where the Black population is barely 6%. And, you know, I was leading a 220 staff facility. And, you know, on top of navigating, you know, whatever racism, sexism, or microaggressions, that look of, you don't really belong here kind of look that you get that you can't put a tangible piece to. But there was one particular incident that stood out. And there was a woman that caused a bit of a stir because she said that when I walked past her, her literal bones would shake. And so I wasn't a tyrannical leader. You know, and let's be real, folks, it was fashion we were dealing with. It wasn't rocket science. It wasn't let's a plot to take over the world was happening in this facility. We were selling cashmere and cotton, okay? And we were doing it very well in the heart of San Francisco. And it was just, she was intimidated by my presence. And it stirred fear. She was paralyzed. She literally would stop in her tracks when I would walk by for whatever reason. And, you know, it wasn't so much that, I mean, like when we all kind of met about it, you know, there were people in the room that dismissed it as, oh, you know, her mental stability is in question. But I looked at it from a different perspective. I looked at it from a spiritual aspect. There's something on me that is disrupting whatever's on you, okay? But then there's also my very presence didn't fit into a box or the stereotype she had about a Black woman. And I could have dismissed it, so to speak, but I was taking it seriously because her opinion of me stirred a 5-person HR incident. And it's one of those things where I work very hard to, you know, this is my character, this is the kind of leader that I am, and one person could say something about me to shape a scenario that I'm to be feared. And, you know, I don't have a switch or a trigger on the inside of me that says, I'm not going to be great today. You know, I'm not going to water me down, but I had to really kind of take a look at what she was wanting me to do. She wanted me to shrink who I was to make her feel more comfortable in the workplace. And I was unwilling. And so that's something that stuck out to me. And it's been like good 10, 12 years since that incident happened. And I remember it like it was yesterday, but her literal bones shook.
Wow, I can see Angela wants to jump in there. Go ahead.
Come on in.
You know, for me, it's not really outside of work that I worry about it. It happens, but I have less worry about outside of work because I think that's the expectation, is that people just have this preconceived notion because you're Black and you're a woman and that's how they're going to treat you, right? For me, it has always been specific to the workplace. I cannot reconcile in my mind if I work as hard as anybody else, regardless of what their factor is, why don't I get the same respect and treatment and equal lens as everybody else? And even to this day, I still struggle with reconciling that I put out work product, that I'm out here shining. Like Shavon said, I will not be in a corner cowering. You're gonna feel the full measure of this greatness every single day. Why can't I be measured with that? That is never the measure. It is always, even you didn't do it, but the thought that you are something. I've asked multiple times throughout my career, did I raise my voice? Like, I don't know where they get this notion that you're angry or upset and always want to comment about that part of it. It's perplexing.
Wow. Let me just look over. Who's jumping in next? I want to give you guys a chance to speak about that. Laurie, go ahead.
Hi, so it's interesting in what you all are saying. I guess because in Bermuda, Black people are the majority. So when I was raised in a Black neighborhood. I was raised going to Black schools. When I left Bermuda, I went to Spelman, I went to Howard. So I was always surrounded by Black people. And I can remember when I first started at Spelman, and they kept talking about, oh, minority this, minority that. I had never heard that term of minority with Black people. So I couldn't figure out who they were talking about initially. Like, who's a minority? I'm not a minority. And so I didn't realize the protectedness I have here in Bermuda of being a Black majority. And so I really haven't had a lot of personal experiences with this in my country, I would say. However, when I went to England to school, now here I come, I'm now a minority in a school. And I can recall one time where I was in a small group project. There was 4 of us, 2 females, 2 males. I was the only Black person in this group. And so we're brainstorming. Everybody's throwing out ideas except for the other female. And every time someone threw out an idea for our project that we were going to move forward with, she dismissed it. Now, this went on for about 5-10 minutes. I had had enough. And I'm looking at everybody else's face and saying, well, surely the 2 guys here have had enough of this young lady dismissing everything and not bringing anything to the table. So I spoke up and I said, I'm sorry, but you've dismissed every idea, yet you have brought nothing to the table. Can you please share your ideas with us, since ours clearly are not good enough? And she couldn't believe how I spoke to her. Oh my gosh, she was so upset. She actually started crying and left the room. And so I'm here now left with these 2 fellas, and they're like, oh my God, how could you speak to her like that? And I said to them, so you're gonna tell me that you were okay with her dismissing your ideas every single time? They said, oh no, but we wouldn't say nothing to them. It's just like, you have got to be kidding me. I said, we have to speak up if we want to get this project moving. We can't sit here and allow her to dictate everything. These ideas have been good. Everyone has presented, yet she's presented and put nothing on the table. Needless to say, the next time we met, she didn't say anything. So, the idea of this, that was my first incident where I felt like nobody was addressing the big elephant in the room, and she was just going to allow this project to fail because she felt that no one's idea was great, but she didn't have an idea herself, So we were able to move along after that. So we got an idea, we put it together, and we put in our project. But, if someone hadn't spoke up, the Black woman, I don't think we would have ever moved forward. But, that stigma of the angry Black woman, for me, it's used to dismiss my voice. It's used to instill a vision of I'm emotionally unstable and I'm not worthy of the respect that I should be given and those that are around me should be given. And so, if you feel that I'm angry, guess what? I'm okay with that. I'm still going to speak. And when I speak, I want to speak facts. And so you're not going to be able to dismiss me because I'm speaking from a factual standpoint. Although you may say, oh, she was emotional, she was this. You can't dismiss my words because my words will be factual.
Amen, sister. I love it. So I do want to hear from Tesenga and also Dr. King. I see you there. And then before I do that, before I pass the mic again, I do want to do justice to all of my presenters, my panelists. And so I just want to quickly highlight a few things that these ladies have done. I kind of gave a quick one earlier, which is not fair to all of the value and juice that these ladies bring. So starting with, I've mentioned already that, Angela Shaw did the TED Talk, Busting the Stereotype of the Angry Black Woman. And again, I'm doing this because I see new people joining as well. I want to make sure that they're on the same wavelength with us. She has extensive years of experience in human resource management. She is currently the Chief People Officer at Juiceland, and she has had many discussions on this topic. So she has a lot to offer. Shay Duncan is the Senior Strategist at USC, in the USC Race and Ethnicity Center, and a teaching faculty member at the center's Race and Ethnicity Institute. She is currently at Santa Clara University. And she has over 20 years of experience developing and implementing strategic plans and initiatives to promote diversity, equitable and inclusion organizational cultures. I'm sorry, I might have mixed it up a little bit. But she has also assisted Fortune 500 companies to assess and evaluate their strategic initiatives around race and ethnicity. We have Laurie Shiels, who you just heard speak. Again, she mentioned she is a graduate of the Spelman University as well as Howard University. She is the director of Center Against Abuse, which is in Bermuda. And she has done extensive work in the area of assisting women. And she was also pivotal in helping Bermuda to unite with the the United Nations Convention for the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. So that is significant, amongst many other things. But for the sake of time, I cannot list all of the accolades that everybody has on here. I do want to congratulate you, Laurie, though, for being on the Queen's honors list, I guess it is.
Thank you.
Thank you. We also have Siobhan Stanley, who you heard kick it off in the beginning, and she is a proud graduate of Clark Atlanta University. She has her work as a financial strategist in North Carolina for Fortune 100 companies. And 20 years progressive experience in fashion, has pioneered discussions around women in leadership, diversity, equity and inclusion, mental well-being in the workplace, and bringing your whole self to work, okay? Yes. She is the founder of Espresso Faith and the Peculiar Feline, which has allowed her opportunities to broadcast and minister the gospel around the world and to enhance the lives of men and women. She is presently establishing a legacy for her family and working on purchasing a town. And we have none other than the Dr. Jacqueline King, who is the founder of Black Women Empowered Incorporated. Her goodness, she's doing so much. She has Black Women Empowered Network, where the organization is connected through Roku. You can watch a host of spiritual growth messages and episodes. She's also done, there's also movies on there. There's this recent movie about autism awareness and a host of other stuff. Keep your eyes on this lady because she is doing a lot, and we're definitely honored to have her on here today. So welcome, Dr. Jacqueline King. She also has extensive work in diversity and inclusion. She's been on many councils as well as a board member. So I'm going to turn the mic back over to Tesenga. You ready? Shay, you ready? We want to hear a little bit about what your experience has been.
Of course. I mean, I was thinking more about your experience when you lifted up your experience in the situation you had with the woman at the storage center. I immediately thought about white fragility and really thinking about, it was more on when you walked away and you said, oh, what is it about what I did that made me the angry Black woman? I really thought about what is it that's going on with her that would immediately make her think you were the situation, or you were the issue, and really what can we do for her, right? So that the next interaction that she has with the Black woman would turn out differently. And I think that that's sort of always where I go as a person who's, who educates around this and who, has, holds these difficult conversations and really coaches people who are struggling. And it was clear that she was struggling, right? In terms of, sort of experiences around being, the angry Black woman, I'll speak from my own perspective. I'm a linear communicator, so I'm direct, I'm straight up. but I'm warm and I'm kind. But I will tell you, how I feel. And I think that sometimes that's hard for people because culturally, being linear as a communicator, there's so many diverse communication styles that's hard for people to hear things directly. It's hard for folk to hear the truth. It's especially when they carry a lot of what they've learned about people growing up with them. So it's going back to the early learning and socialization. What is it that what messages were sent to you from media, from schools, from your neighborhood, your home, your spiritual institutions around Black women? How did you learn what you know or what you carry in terms of knowledge around Black women? And that is the lens through which you see the world. Those are the implicit and unconscious biases that sort of come up when you're engaging with folk that are different from you. And we could apply this to all different identity categories, but we're talking about Black women today. And so that's sort of, when I'm interacting with people, when I'm having those conversations or that rub, I go back to that, right? I go back to what is it that I don't know about this situation that make me think differently? Why is it that this person is sort of approaching me in this way? And what is the best way in a short amount of time that I can address them to, one, have them sort of self-correct and go do their own work, but two, also, protect something that I'm very proud. I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of how I show up in a space, in a place, and I move forward and I take up space and live my life accordingly. So that's sort of how I feel about the situation. It really was more about like, okay, racism, what does it mean to have a white identity and the culture of whiteness and how that impacts people as they engage on a day-to-day basis, because it's really hard to see the water that you're swimming in, right? So it's always the other, somebody else is the issue, not that I might need to check myself.
I love everything you just said, like all of that. What the thing that really sort of stuck out in terms of what you just said, I think a lot of the times when we have these interactions that are, negative or may not leave us feeling the right way, I think sometimes we internalize it and we do look at ourselves like, what's wrong with me? Like, what have I done? Like, what do I need to change? What do I need to do better? And I think that, and to be honest, just like, if I'm really talking about me, I think that's pretty much how I tend to handle it, because it's like, but I mean, obviously I realized when I walked away out of that situation that there was clearly something wrong with her. But sometimes it's a lot more subtle. And when it's subtle and you're wondering, you're feeling this vibe like, okay, I feel like I'm the angry Black woman in this conversation or in this situation, even though you're not angry, it's, it makes me think inwardly, okay, what do I need to do differently? Like, am I talking too loud? Am I using too much gestures? Like, and like Shavon said at the beginning, she's not toning herself down to, she's going to bring herself 100% to the situation. And I guess that's probably one of my challenges. I think that's also why I needed to hear from women who, like yourselves, has done a lot of study on this topic, because my goal is that we can bring some healing, number one, a little bit of healing and maybe some guidance on how to start to address this topic and when this label, when you're faced with it individually, like how do we manage it? How do we navigate around it? Because it can be very uncomfortable and it can silence you if you don't know how to do it, if you don't know how to deal with it. So thank you so much for that. Did you have another comment?
I was just going to say, one of the things that, we talk about being unapologetically us as Black women. But one of the things I want to just highlight to folk who might be thinking, well, but, do you always have to, show up in that way or whatever it is people might be thinking. I want to say that in society, we're forced to be critically conscious enough that we admit when we're wrong. I think that's why we immediately go to check ourselves to say, like, was it something I did? Did I say something that I, was my body language a certain way? Like what, we automatically go to ourselves. So it's not that, we are, it's not that we are not, caring empathetic, showing up in a way that we care about sort of what other people feel and how we impact them, and how that's not the case. In many of these situations, we're put in situations where we are being gaslighted. We're walking away, or people are trying to say it's us that's the problem. We know, because of how we've grown up and because we've been forced to be critically conscious of who we are, that we've done everything we could in this particular situation, and it still ended up in this particular way because people think of us as being angry. So I just wanted to sort of highlight that, because what people will try to say is like, well, no, maybe it is you. All the time we are walking away, no matter what we do, no matter who we are, wondering, we go through the game tape to see, what is it that I did? And many times it isn't us. It isn't us. So I want to leave that there just in case somebody wants to lift that up.
Go ahead.
I want to jump in because it's interesting. I was watching Angela's TED Talk, and yesterday she talked about, hey, what encompasses who I am is a wide range of emotions. And I thought about that piece. I'm like, I get to occupy a myriad of different emotions. And because I'm not calm or resolute or demure or whatever it is, I have to automatically be in a category of angry, you know? Like, what happened to all of the other spaces that I get to occupy as a woman? And I thought about just the root causes of these things. And I looked at, like, they weren't calling us angry Black women on the plantation. So where exactly did this, like, stigmatism birth from? I'm like, where was this coming from? And I started to really look at the misrepresentation in the media and the deliberate broad strokes to paint us as this overbearing, irrational, illogical, unhinged individual. And we see it in Aunt Esther and her interaction with Fred, right? I mean, the ratings went through the roof, and they kept feeding this berate the Black man, berate the unemployed, like everything was this belittle, angry image. There was the Sapphire from Amos and Andy. There was the, for those of you all who may remember, Pam from Martin. And it was this unfeminine, illogical, ignorant, without provocation kind of flow that this woman was engaged in. And we didn't really see another representation until maybe Claire Huxtable came on the scene, you know? We saw like what A Different World tried to do, or Living Single, where there were different types of Black women, different temperaments, were able to get along, support one another, and have a myriad of personality and ranges. We were able to see that, but you don't see enough representation. And the design is it stems from, like, when you see like I'm just putting it out there, the Real Housewife personalities, and everyone's kind of at each other's throat, and you can barely get a word in. Love and hip hop, all of this argumentative hip hop loud. It is this need to be heard and seen and be relevant. And they think that because I'm overlooked in other areas, I can't be heard, or I'm not seen as valuable, or I'm less than. I have to scream, shout, go off the rails in order to be viewed as someone who is in the room. I don't know if you guys have another point to put on that, but I was really looking at that piece, how we've been represented in the media.
That is, thank you, Shavon. And when you was talking about Martin, I almost thought about, for some reason, Shanae came to my mind, and that's a whole nother topic about what that did to our image. We ain't going there. Dr. King, I see you look like you want to join in. What you got for us?
Yeah, Shavon made a really good point. And so here's one thing about the media: anger sells. They're not going to put anything out there that's not going to make money. Nobody wants to see everybody getting along, loving and hugging on each other. That's just not going to make any money. So that's never going to go away. It's always going to be because anger or fighting or all of that. If you look at the shows that are doing the best, it's the one where everybody's at each other's throat, whether it's white, Black, it doesn't matter. That's what they're going to do. They're going for the ratings. So Shavon, you made a very good point, but what I wanted to say was, so I'm probably old enough to be everyone on here's mother. So I worked back in the 80s when they didn't even have laptops, and they actually didn't even have computers when I started in the field. So the things that I got to see, you guys, I don't even know if you could survive, because I'm telling you, it was racism at its highest. There was no diversity. They had no protections. You just fend for yourself. So I was always an angry Black woman, and I really didn't care, because I was going to stand up. And my mother used to call me Angela Davis. I was right on hair and picking the hair. You're not doing this. I'm serious. You're not doing this to me. And I did that for 27 years, all the way until I left the electric company, because it was about survival. It was either me or you. You're not getting rid of me. I am putting in too much time. I'm going to my attorneys. I'm going to Jesse Jackson. I'm going to whoever. I'm going to make my voice heard. And I don't see that as an angry woman. And I really, honestly, you can say what you want. I didn't care what anybody thought. I was doing what I needed to do at that time. I have learned a lot over the years. Black Women Empowered has taught me so much about Black women and white women. There was a woman on our Facebook page, and if you all don't know, we have millions of followers, 2 million on our big page. And she posted on there, and she said, if I started White Women Empowered, she said, you would report me to the NAACP. She said, you're racist. And she went into me, she went in so hard. She was going to report me to CNN and NBC and all of them. And so I let her, rant and rave. And I said, you know what the difference in me and you is? I don't care if you start White Women Empowered. I'm not going to be on your page. So I really don't even know why you're on mine. I said, and the other thing is, if you read, we embrace all women. We don't discriminate, but Black Women Empowered, the name is not going to change. We need empowerment more than any other women out there. And I said, I'm not changing. I said, and by the way, I hope you do report us to that. I said, that'd be good publicity for me. I said, and in addition to that, if you take the time to read the comments, we've never said anything racist. We've never done anything racist. You just went by the name, and the name is not going to change. You have to stand up, and you can do it. You can do it in a calm way. You can do it in a however you feel like doing it. But for me, I wanted to make sure that she knew. She never even responded anymore. I wanted to make sure she knew I'm solid in who I am. You're the one that's confused. So, just dealing with all the negativity that I have read on, and I have people ask me, Shavon knows, ask me, could I change it to All Women Empowered? I said, absolutely not. That's not the name God gave me. He gave me Black Women Empowered, and it's been 10 years. November will be 10 years. It's not changing. Now, if you feel comfortable getting in there, you're welcome to join us. But we're not changing to make you feel comfortable. That's pretty much not going to happen. And the other thing, the last point I want to make is about natural hair. And Shavon, your hair looks great. I love it. Love it.
Thank you.
So when I decided to go natural, it was different, because people were like, why is your hair like that? Why do you want to wear your hair like that? Why can't you wear it normal? Well, this is my normal. See, there you go again. This is the hair that God made for me. If I chose to put chemicals in it, that's my choice. But if I choose to wear it the way God gave me, the majority of African-American women, there's some women like my friend Regina that, don't have to do no chemicals or none. But most of us don't have that. And we are entitled to be who we are. And I will defend it. I did an article on LinkedIn. I was surprised that, people were chiming in about, these companies that are firing women for wearing natural hair. You're losing like great talent over hair. That's stupid. So we have to defend, who we are, what we do. And I say the manner that you do it in, that's your choice. If you want to be an angry Black woman, go ahead. Hey, let them adjust. That's me. I know when to turn it up. and I know when to turn it down. Moving to the Midwest, and Shavon and Regina can know about this. This has been different for me. So there's only 13% African Americans in Fort Wayne. That blew my mind. But guess what? I found out I'm treated better than I was when I was with the Black people. Honestly, God, I'm not even making this up. My neighbors, when I go on vacation, they rake my leaves, they shovel my snow, they get my mail. I'm going to a church that's predominantly white. They treat me well. And I'm not defending, I'm just telling you, I had to adjust to where I am. And if the need be, if it comes up, the way I have to step it up, I will. But I've been here almost 2 years and I haven't had to. Everybody's been kind to me. The people at the church have been kind to me. The pastor's been kind to me. But you have to adjust to where you are at that time. And that's my input.
I love that. Is just so profound and so much wisdom, Dr. King, from your years of having dealt with this long before the title even existed. But one of the things that sort of jumped out at me was, I think we kind of feel like we need permission now to be angry. And like you said, however you do it the way you're gonna do it. If you're gonna do it angry, do it angry. If you're gonna, do it happy, whatever. But in so many words, but it's like the title, because you want to steer, or some people do, I guess I do, I'm just being honest. I don't want to be labeled that way. And because of that, I tend to like, okay, I will always be who I am. I will always be myself, but it's like, how do I get away from that? Or if I am angry, I almost feel like I have to explain why. Like I got to give you reasons why I'm to justify my anger. No, I shouldn't have to do all of that. Like I should have a right to be angry when I'm angry or happy when I'm happy. And that's an emotion that I shouldn't have to hide or bury or, dumb down, because I get to see other people be angry and ain't nobody calling them angry or anything else. Well, we do have there are some new terminologies out there, new terms and titles of Karen and all that, but even that is reserved for like, just kind of like psycho women. We are everyday women, our everyday situations can be faced with this angry Black woman title. We don't have to even be doing anything. A lot of the times, like I said, I'm not even angry. I wasn't even angry and I got called that. So, point there is, having to almost feeling like you have to ask permission to go there. All right.
Wait a minute. I think someone, and I don't know how to navigate between the chat. So I think someone posted that they passed a law in California where you can't discriminate against natural hair. Is that right? Yeah. Did somebody type that? You know what? That is so stupid. Why do you have to pass a law for a person to wear the hair that they were born with? I heard about that, and that's dumb.
There are actually 13 states now that have laws. Yes. California was just the first one.
Yes. Yeah, they're trying to get all 50 states. But, if you look that's why we're talking about changing systems and structures. But if you look in workplace policy manuals and things of that sort, they talk specifically about how your hair should be, what it should look like, and what is professional and is not professional. There's still things on the books. So we have to create laws like this to protect folk so that they don't lose their job just for being who they are. It's just another loophole and another way for them to, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but principalities and powers. And, so I'm like, it's not you, it's the evil in you that I'm trying to work on at this particular point. So that's just where we're at when it comes to this fight. We're continuing to fight for our rights in this country.
And I always say that professionalism is actually the new ism used to silence people.
That and fit.
Yes, cultural fit. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that the things. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, you can go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'll go after you.
As you were saying just now, you're talking about there are laws, with regard to natural hair. And I used to work in HR myself. And I can remember reading someone's file when they had started at this place that I was currently working, and they started working there in about the 70s. And so the interview, I'm reading through, how the interview went. And at the end, they said, she did so well in her interview, but she has an afro. And I just read it and I was like, are you kidding me? She has an afro. And mind you, they ended up hiring her in the end, but just the fact that they even wrote that down, that she had an afro, just blew my mind away, And as you said, the isms, it's always one thing, the next thing, At one point we were too dark, and now it's, oh, they're wearing their hair natural again. Oh, the earrings are too big. It's always something that's going to be out there. And as Dr. said, I'm of the opinion, you either take me or you leave me, because you're going to have something to say about me that's going to be negative. That's not my issue. That's your issue. That's so right. If my passionate truth makes you uncomfortable, well, then the shoe has found the right foot.
I love it. But it's interesting. The things that make me angry should make you, get uncomfortable too. Unequal pay, injustices in the workplace. I shouldn't be angry about those things by myself. It shouldn't be, let's look the other way, or you sit comfortably in privilege and you see an injustice or someone being marginalized in that particular area. And I just, I know that when we see these images or people try to label you and put a block, you're an angry Black woman. And I love the way Dr. King was like, I'm embracing it. I'll be that, but you're going to deal with this issue. She leans into it a little differently. I just think that, the enemy is going after our power, our voice, our mouth. There is something that happens when, clearly the example I was talking about when we first got on, there's something that happens when a Black woman walks into the room. We have the power to shift a whole atmosphere. Absolutely. Whether you like a Black woman or not, the fact that it's not a whole lot of us in the room makes you go, what's up? How did they get in this room? There's a question, a curiosity. So if more Black women could embrace, there's a power and a uniqueness that the Lord put in you, and not walk it out in fear, but a boldness that you bring something that nobody else in that room brings. And just like Laurie talked about, it's not, and Dr. King, it's not our job to make you feel comfortable, water down our greatness. It's not my job to teach you about the angry Black woman or teach you understand what I mean? Like, you have to bring education and want to shed ignorance. Like, when's the last time you got to know your Black coworkers or a Black woman in the workplace? Like, you have an onus in that to educate yourself about what they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And I've been blessed to deal with some white professional men, some white men in the workplace who took the time and opened doors and were gatekeepers, and they walked me into particular rooms and was an advocate for me because they saw the injustice and they were not going to be quiet about it. And I appreciated that. So God, do something for you. And let me tell you something. It transcends you being a Black woman, the type of doors that the Lord will open for you. The favor on your life, it transcends all of that, child of God. And so I just want to put that piece out there. So wherever somebody wants to cut you off because of your afro or the tone of your skin or what other kind of foolishness, the Lord says, I have a door open for you and I'm going to put you where I want you to be. And you have to understand, when you get to those tables, you cannot be silent.
Amen. And that is so true.
You have to pave the way. That's your responsibility, to pave the way for those coming behind you. And if you sit there and do nothing, then you're not paving the way. And you, like, how you choose to do it. Like I say, for me, I was like Sister Girl Angela Davis, right on. I'm going through. Everybody doesn't have that, and I get that. That's how my mother was too. But however you have to do it, that's why we have Black women empowered. because it's necessary. It is necessary for unity, the sisters to come together in prayer and love and support. It's necessary.
Yeah, and I think somebody said you got to be comfortable. Like Laurie, you were saying something about being comfortable with it. You know, I am learning to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because when God gives you, like Shavon said, you know, a platform or puts you in a room as a representative, you have to speak up, and it is going to be uncomfortable, but you just have to get over it and keep doing it, you know, because what use are you there if you're just there to say yes and agree with everything?
Exactly.
And it's not that you should be there to disagree either, but stand up for what you believe is correct. You know, follow your conscience, allow the Holy Spirit, the Holy Ghost to direct you in terms of what your position should be. Because it even shouldn't just be based on your own personal comfort zone. You know, sometimes what God is trying to do is beyond what you would want to do as an individual or what you would like to see done. So it's, you know, hearing from God and being that voice and not, and being brave enough to not be silent. I remember I was in a situation one time in this meeting, and I just decided, I mean, normally I would speak up and say what I need to say, but this one day I was just like, I'm tired of feeling like, you know, that I'm tired of feeling like the angry Black woman. So I'm not saying anything today. And it's not that I didn't talk. I just kind of tried being quiet that day. And everybody was like, what's wrong with her? Like they knew it wasn't me. So it's like, what's the point of me being quiet? You know, they know that this is not me. They know that I normally have a voice, but sometimes you just feel tired. It just, you know, when you feel like, okay, I'm always having to be, you know, seemingly the voice of opposition. But, you know, God didn't put us here to all agree and to say the same things. We need balance, and we should, and I feel like the different groups that God has put me in, I may not appreciate it, but people that I'm around can appreciate alternative perspectives. They actually can. And I think just because of the label, sometimes we may inadvertently assume that people view us a certain way when they don't. Sometimes it's just our own internal voice, you know, speaking in sometimes we silence ourselves, you know, by believing that somebody has a certain opinion of you. And so we have to be careful of that as well. Let me just look around.
Glad you said that, Regina. So I think, you know, one of the things I think is important, and it seemed like everybody was sort of chiming in the chat and saying that about being at the table and about being purposeful. You know, every day I sit at the tables at places where God has given me favor and opened up doors for me, but I'm at that table for a reason. I'm at that table to lift up the marginalized and minoritized folk that are not able to be in the room. I'm also at the table to make sure I create systems and structures so that they can be at the table. And every day I don't use those gifts, and I don't use my voice, is a day that we continuously end up in waking up in Groundhog Day, especially around you know, these oppressive structures, you know, in the US that we're trying to uproot, right? And so I you know, as we were sitting here thinking, I was thinking about how you know, we've talked a lot about being angry, but what I've seen in many of the settings that I have been in is how our joy is policed, or how our joy is snuffed out. Like if you see a group of Black folk together and they're happy and they're like laughing or whatever, if people are like, shh, be quiet, or you got to leave, you can't be in here, you know, like, so what I've noticed, because now I'm in a county where there's only 3% Black folk, is watching the happiness or joy and resilience we bring in the face of adversity, how that is trying to be snuffed out. So as we talk about sort of the angry side of things, it's really, you know, what I've been seeing is a problem with Black joy. And we should protect that joy and energy at all costs. And I say that because that's another issue, is that you're walking into these rooms as, you know, as a person, you know, to be able to advocate, or just, you know, just to live your day-to-day life and do your job. But the fact that you consistently are bumping up against these microaggressions, you know, you have places where people are trying to silence you, and then you still are smiling and having joy in that I watch that get under people's skin. They don't even like the smile or the joy. It's like, you can't win. And so that is something that I think that is necessary. So we always talk about like the angry Black woman, but they don't want you to be happy either. It's like, you can't win. But one of I think the important things to think about as we're talking about all of this is that at those tables or in our day-to-day walk, and the reason why I can say like, I don't really care what you think about me, right? I know who my source is. And that like just sort of knocks everything out. Like, I know who my source is. I was somewhere and someone said to me like, ooh, you shouldn't always say something because, I was talking to somebody and they said that, you could like lose your job or whatever. I remember like, the church building fund, the thermometer, the heat went up in me, like one of those church building fund thermometers. I just felt it rising in me. And I had to stop myself because it was a visceral reaction. I said, I don't care about this job. Do you know what I'm here for? Do you know what I'm here to do? Like, I have a purpose. If you think that I'm dependent upon this particular place to pay my salary or to give me this money, that's not my source. And the sooner you know that, then the sooner you'll be able to live your life, ingrained and rooted in your purpose, period.
Mm-hmm.
Before I see you guys are still muted. If you want to jump in, just unmute yourself so I'll know. Tesenga, Shay, when you were saying, talking about managing our joy, policing how people want to police our joy, it just took my mind back to, I saw this video where there was a family at a hotel and they were in the swimming pool and they were paying customers at that hotel. And other members of other guests of the hotel came down, wanted to use the swimming pool, and they couldn't appreciate that there was a Black family at the hotel in the swimming pool. So they called the management and had them removed, even though they were guests at the hotel. Like, it was, show me your cards. How do you have a right to be here? And, it's like, you don't have to be doing anything wrong. And like you said, the managing and policing the joy and policing everything else in between, it's just kind of where we find ourselves. But yeah, I mean, goodness, I love that you said that because I hadn't really, it's so true, but I hadn't really given thought to that in that way.
I just think that, there's a self-management piece, a self-reflection that I don't think I don't think a lot of Black women do. And let me be clear. I think a lot of times we bottle up our emotions and it's unhealthy and damaging. And, when something happens, it ends up being like a trigger and people end up getting exploded all over, whether it's the workplace or at home or a relationship. Because we don't know how to feel comfortable communicating and articulating our emotions or how we feel. I guess, how sometimes people just only have a one, on and off, and don't have the vocabulary to be able to articulate how they feel in the workplace, whatever it is. They don't feel like they have the proper advocacy. So it turns into a volcanic, angry situation. And I just want to challenge anyone that may be battling that piece, like being able to, I guess, maybe find their voice, continue, partnering with women, like get your tribe, you know what I mean? Your circle, partner with women, connect with the Black Women in Power page, connect with women that inspire you, that are encouraging you, that are lifting you up, that help you shape your voice properly in those scenarios so that you have, you can invest in the right places. You can be heard when you do open your mouth. There's a part that we play in that as well. I don't want to take the onus off of Black women and when we're at the table, what that sounds like. Can I say it that way? I also challenge around where we're sowing. And, I've given of myself and I've been bit before. I mean, that's part of when you loving people and serving people, people bite too, but the piece that I'm talking about around sowing in consistent open up doorways. If you're at the table, making that pavement clear. I can speak to Dr. King's impact in my life because she's walking it like she's talking it. You know, when my own leadership, ministry-wise, et cetera, didn't value what was in me, she did. She saw a Black woman, she saw me, and she said, I'm gonna open this door up for her. And it was an avenue for a myriad of things. And it connected her with this person, that person. And that's how it is. Instead of being a speed bump and a blocker, that we are open enough to sow and get our tribe and the circles and sow into other people and open those roadways up for us to be able to minister to people and apply healing, and people have a actual human resource to be able to plug into to help them in these areas. Because there's some people who are gonna remain argumentative and all of the imagery that we see on television that misrepresent Black women, because they don't know where to go, or no one is, I mean, we own the part to, you know, pull up, you know, and add our piece, but they got to know where to go. We have to be able to be accessible for people to come to us, and we pour out and we sow in those areas. And I hope I'm being clear with that. I saw it and I wanted to put that piece out there. We have a responsibility to sow and, you know, and build ourselves up. So that part.
Yep, I got you, Shavon. That whole lift as we climb and bringing people up and not being threatened. Dr. King, you want to jump in?
Yeah, so I'm gonna shift a little bit about, so since I've, and I know we have your husband on the line. So since I've gone through menopause, so I'm not in that crazy hormonal stage like the young women are. You have to also consider that, and that's just not for Black women, that's all women. Because I'll give you an example. I remember a guy sent out an email and he said something, and I don't even remember, this was years ago, and it set me off. But I was like in the middle of a major hormone thing, and I typed this long email. I mean, to everybody. It wasn't just to him. He had emailed the group, and it kind of was like saying something about what I did, and it really wasn't that serious, but the email was so long and I ripped him up so bad. And then I went back and looked at it, and I was like, oh my God, it wasn't that serious. But my hormones were so out of whack when I saw the email. I'm saying this, you have to factor that in too. Let's be real. Y'all laughing because y'all know I'm telling the truth. You can go off when you were at that cycle stage, and then you look back and say, what in the world did I do? Take that into consideration. That's my wisdom to you all.
Know that self.
That's true.
I think we also need to build on that too, because there's sometimes that we do bring that fire, but it's necessary.
No, I agree, but I'm talking about when it's not necessary.
I know. So we were talking about that, being critically conscious and checking ourselves, because we know when we're wrong, right? And we need to ask for forgiveness and move forward. But there's sometimes we have to bring that fire, and most of the time,
I agree.
I bring it with a look. I don't even have to talk to you. You're gonna see it. You're gonna see all of it. I don't even have to say anything.
Damn. We got that. I call it the mother look, the mama look. You know how your mama look at you, she ain't gotta say nothing. You already know you done messed up. Oh yeah, we got that.
But I love it. I love the look. I love it.
Yes, that's our gift. That's our gift.
I talked about the look in my talk. I talked about the look. And since I work in HR, people get the look, and they know. They know to back up.
Yeah. I give the look to children even in the grocery store, like, I know you're not that. No.
I agree.
And they will calm right down. So that's our gift. We don't have to say anything. We can do the look.
Mm-hmm.
It's so true. And there was that word that popped out, necessary. And it made me think about, there's people who are going to say that this conversation is not necessary. And they would say that, you're basically being defensive of the fact that you need to bring it up. And I'm reminded of, Angela's TED Talk, And, you know, honestly, some of the feedback that came from that was just nasty. And, you know, I'm just wondering, what do we have to say about, not about the nasty comments, but what do we have to say when people say that this is not necessary? Like if, you know, 90% of Black women are angry and, you know, I guess those of us that are not, we're just the exception. Like, what are you guys' thoughts about that?
Someone actually asked me how I felt about the nasty comments. And my response was, that's not where I sit. That's not where I lie. That's not what I worry about. Where I sit and lie is with all of you here today. People who want to be encouraged, who want to be built up, who want to know that we matter and that we have a voice, that's where I sit. And so for every person who's ever reached out to me to say, you said exactly what I've been trying to articulate, that's who I said it for. Not those people who had the nasty comments. And there's enough of us that exist that want to see the value that we know we have in other Black women, that every nasty comment made it worth it. Just to be here today, it made it worth it.
And who's got the time for all that? I mean, you getting cussed out by beautiful waterfalls. It ain't even an actual face. It's pictures and, you know, people, it's like a flower is cussing you out. Child, if you don't go on someplace with that, I don't have time for that. I'm going to go back to, I'm going to invest my time wisely and sow it where, you know, there's going to be a harvest. And this is that group.
Here, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, and let me say, you know, on Facebook, a lot of people say, you know, there's a lot of negativity on Facebook, and I'm sure that it is. But when I go on Facebook, I have a purpose. I'm going on there to do uplift, encouragement, and motivation. I don't even see that other stuff. I really don't. I don't see it because I'm not there looking for it. And when people are doing nasty comments, in many cases, they're just trying to get attention. It's not even actually how they feel. They want somebody to chime in with them. They want an audience. It's best to just, like Shavon say, I don't have time for that. I don't say, you have to know how much negative comments I get with Black Women in Power. And now that we're building up on LinkedIn, I mean, we have like 140 something thousand followers on our page on LinkedIn. They used to do a lot of negative. I think they kind of died down, or either they're getting blocked. I don't know, but we don't get them like we used to. But I don't pay any attention to it. I keep on with the message because there's somebody that needs to hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
I think the conversations that I have been seeing more, and maybe we don't have this conversation now, and it's sort of an internal family conversation, is Black men, you know, a fraction or a small segment of Black men talking about the angry Black woman, right? And what that looks like and how we show up and everything like that. And so those are some internal family sort of community conversations that we need to have, you know, so that we don't sort of walk into the stereotype isn't like promoted and things of that sort. There's some things that we need to work out, but that's another workshop.
No, that is true. That's part of the discussion. It looked like somebody was going to say something.
Actually, I was going to say, I wanted to carry on a couple of comments. We use great words like unapologetic and self-reflection and shaping our voices and sowing into our younger generation. One thing I always, as a married woman, have tried to exemplify is always looked at as angry Black woman, of course, but and I raised 3 young men, and so it was important for me that they be raised as men. So their names were given as man name, not boy names, so that they raise up to be men. But one thing I wanted to mention, and we've touched on it a little bit, is just making sure we show our soft side as virtual women of God, and in that sense that we show that whole part of us. And so I think Dr. Jacqueline spoke on it, and Tesenga, I'm sorry if I get your names wrong, but you all spoke on it, touched on it, and I think this setting has been very good, but the younger generation, I think I really have matured. And when you go, I always say after 50, you make a whole lot of decisions and you really are unapologetic. Like, I am not unapologetic about anything I say. No, I just let it out. And then hopefully I say, God, please give me the right words to say the right time, the first time, so I don't have to apologize for saying it. But before that, I said, it's easy, it's nice to be able to share with younger women that are like us and that came up like us, so that they can better portray themselves in the workforce or as a professional. And just sharing is, sometimes we don't share with our younger generation or explain to them and help them understand the necessity of still being quote unquote angry women, but still being professional about it and still carrying in ourselves in a way that the man is still the head of the house, sort of thing, you know, not belittling him, but in your angriness being supportive of what that leader is supposed to be.
You bring out some really good points. You know, just trying to balance our emotions so that we're not always presenting, you know, one face, you know, all the time. And as a mother, you know, you're constantly trying to balance that love and the, you know, the nurturing part, but also that corrective part or whatever. So, you know, we have to be allowed to be everything that we are, the good and the bad, the ugly, the angry, the happy, the sad, everything in between. But thank you for that, Regina. You absolutely do not shy away from who you are, and we know this. But I also wanted to just take a break. Sorry, it looks like my battery's getting low. I want to go ahead and take a break, but for our viewers, we're going to go ahead and pop a poll in the on here, so you can take the poll. We'll take are you guys comfortable with a 10-minute, 5-minute? Let me know how you're feeling. So we'll take a 5-minute break. The poll's gonna run, and then when we come back, we'll talk about, we'll pick up from there. So I'm gonna give you guys the results of the poll in just a second, and then we're gonna do another quick poll, and then we're gonna kick off our second part. So babe, go ahead and share those results of the first poll. Okay, so it looks like 69% of our viewers said that they have been in situations where, despite not being angry, were treated like an angry Black woman. And of course, we have other individuals on here that may not be Black or may not be female. So we do have some not applicable as well. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and take one more poll. I was gonna put it up in just a second. Okay. Have you ever felt concerned about expressing your opinion because you may be viewed as an angry Black woman? So this is about how expressing your opinion. I'll give everybody a moment to respond.
Can I make a comment real quick, Regina?
Absolutely.
We've talked a lot throughout about, so all of us identifying with being an angry Black woman, that we do have softer sides. You know, I think that the thing is, we all have these range of emotions, but we always get negatively labeled with the angry piece, right? And that even as Black women, we don't get the opportunity to have our wide range of emotions like everybody else. And I just wanted to like nuance that part. We all actually do have the softer side and the loving side of us and all of the emotions, but people tend to pick that negative one with which to label us. The other thing is the racism part of, it's just your mere existence. So it doesn't matter whether you're angry or happy or whatever, we're just going to snuff that out. That's racism, like at its finest. So when we were talking about the Black joy and how we can't even be joyful, you know, yeah, that's racism. So if I have a reaction that you don't like, you're angry. But if you're joyful, you're too loud, you're too much, you're too brash. That's the real thing.
You also have to understand, Angela, we were forced into nurturing roles, right? We've always been forced into nurturing roles. And many times when we move into some of these spaces and places, even in the workplace, the expectation is that we'll be, in those nurturing roles. Like for me, many times I talk about and talk to my colleagues and try to teach folk how to lead with a care ethic, how to be empathetic, how to be, active listener. And just part of my role is community building and building the beloved community. But because of that, when you have those situations where you have to be direct, where you have to set boundaries, where you have to, say, hey, something that you just said gave me pause, that's when the tears come, or that's when the, oh my gosh, you're so angry because I said something that you said gave me pause. Really? That's where we're at today. Okay. Well, you sit in that discomfort as I talk to you about what just went wrong in the situation, and moving forward, I expect that this is what's going to occur. Right. And then go from there. But I'm glad that you said, I'm really glad that you brought that up, because these are things that, folk, sort of put you in these specific categories, and they don't realize how complex and how nuanced. And it's funny that that's the expectation they have of us, right? Like it's whatever historically you have been labeled as, or the roles that we have allowed you to play, that's what we expect for you to be. Anything other than that is not acceptable.
As I sit here thinking about, the stereotypes that I hold. So, there's the angry Black woman, but for me, it's the crybaby white woman. Everything I say, you're crying. And I'm just like, that was nothing to cry about. I can recall assisting a friend with a walkthrough of a house when the tenants were leaving. I had helped the tenants move in. And so I knew what the house looked like. The house was brand new. So here we come, we're doing the walkthrough when they're leaving. And so I say, okay, you need to make some repairs here, there. The wife started crying, and I couldn't figure out why she was crying. She was like, well, I didn't think that we would have to make repairs. Well, yeah, you received the house brand new. And she just broke down and cried. And I found this, time and time again, where it feels like, this sympathy vote, when I don't know if they do it with their peers, but I see it with between Black women and white women, where they will start to cry when they feel that they're not getting their way.
It's a spirit of manipulation.
Yes.
And, I don't give it space. I just sit there and stare. I think it's a phenomenon. I'm like, but yeah, it's a spirit of manipulation is exactly what that is. We have to navigate a myriad of things. And honestly, I personally don't know how people do it without the Holy Ghost, without the Lord, because it's dicey out here. Okay. And, I think about, I went back to thinking about some of the labels in the Bible that were put on women. And I thought about, remember Moses' wife, the Ethiopian woman got that, come on, she can't live her best life. She can't live and support the man of God. She got hated on by Miriam and Aaron just for existing. All it said was, what was it? Numbers 12, verse 1. It goes right into Miriam, Aaron. They hated on Zipporah. Is that her name, Zipporah? Because she was Ethiopian. That's racism at its finest. Ain't nothing new. Nothing new. And here's the thing, though. You didn't see her. They didn't note that they got into any battles or anything. But did you see how the Lord dealt with them? Miriam was struck down with leprosy. And I'm going to tell you something. The door got opened up for some mess in her life because she came up against that woman. Racism has a cost. And you may not always have a front row seat to see what happens, but there's a cost. There's an economic cost in America to racism. Keeping this talent out of the room is costly. There's a cost to it. I want to put that out there, that piece out there.
Looks like our poll responses have come up. 65% said yes, they felt concerned expressing their opinion because they were fear of being viewed as an angry Black woman, and 29% said no, 6% said not applicable. Sorry, that just popped up, so I thought I'd kick that in there. But in terms of that fragility, I mean, what I pictured as I was listening to you guys? I was picturing, and it's just what I pictured, okay? The white woman with the umbrella walking across the plantation, fragile, gentle, protected, you know, whereas during that period of time, the Black women would have been out in the heat with the baby on the back, with the cotton on the other back, you know, on the other side, you know, just working, you know. And so it's like Black women are sometimes viewed as being able to handle everything, you know, and sometimes I think we feel like we have to, because you know, you can't make excuses. If you're going to get ahead, you just have to like do what you got to do and not allow any obstacles to stand in your way. Otherwise, you know, it would be difficult to get ahead sometimes. So, you know, it's that fragility. Like sometimes Black women are not really allowed to be, you know, fragile, if you will. Or I think Shavon mentioned, I think Shay mentioned it either also, about that being motherly or always being viewed sort of the ancient mama, you know, or not necessarily that so much, but I'm kind of pictured that when I said it, but just, you know, having to raise other people's babies, you know, back in the day and not even be able to take care of your own or nurture your own. And so like all of that is weaved and it's playing a part in this and how we got to where we are. But yeah, just throwing that in there.
Yeah, so society, this is, I mean, and I can't remember the lady's name, but when I say it, you guys, that green lady, the lady that's in politics, is going out there doing everything and saying everything. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. So if that was one of the sisters in Congress doing that, what they would nail her to the cross. You already know it. But this woman does whatever, and she's and they're like, oh, let her stay. You know, she's just expressing herself. Da, 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 da. If their society has, that's the brush that they have painted us with, that no matter what, we're inferior to the white woman can do whatever she wants, and anytime we raise our voice, it's a problem. But that's as old as dirt, like Shavon said. We just have to, you know, deal with it the best way we can. And if that means being an angry Black woman, I say go for it.
Yeah, but
I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I'm tainting the image for some women, but I'm being real.
Yeah, I don't think you're even tainting the image, but I even think for women across the board too, they are, when they speak out, when they you know, I think about AOC, I think about all these women in different you know, just across the board, let's just say, you know, across all racial categories, even when they speak out, they're considered, you know, I can't say some of the words, right? Like in the workplace, the fact that if they come in with a level of confidence or assertive, one of the things my lovely husband and partner says to me all the time is that he said, you speak in pen, you don't speak in pencil. So when I say something, that's it. And that's hard for people. That is really hard, especially for a woman, right? Because of, if we think about the stereotypes around gender roles. And so white women, Black women, Latinx women, you know, APIA women, and we could go on and on and on. They all have to, you know, when it comes down to gender roles and dynamics in the workplace or even at home, you know, if you present yourself in a certain way, you know, you are sort of categorized as being, you know, what is it? Well, the rooftop woman. There is a such thing as a contentious person, right? But that's what they look at you across the board. Anytime you're in disagreement, anytime you express discomfort, you know, it's like you're supposed to, the weight of the world is supposed to be on you. And you are supposed to present in a specific way, one specific way at all times. And I don't know what type of Barbie doll fantasy that is for other folk out there. But like Karen White said, I'm not your superwoman, okay? I put that down a long time ago. You are going, if something hurts me, I'm going to say, ouch. You're going to hear, you know, me, and I'm going to let you know, because we can't continue to carry that. That's why we, if you think about the social determinants of health, specifically as Black women, why is our infant mortality rate, and then the mortality rate for the mothers, why is it the way that it is, right? If we think about, like, you know, all the different diseases, all the things that we're carrying, right? A lot of that comes from what we endure on the day-to-day basis. There's a documentary through PBS called Unnatural Causes, How Inequality is Making Us Sick. And it's they have a whole segment of that 4-part series on Black women and infant mortality. So even women who are in situations where they either are middle class or well off, they're having the same infant mortality rates of people in abject poverty, and maybe more. And why is that? And they talk about the stress of racism. They talk about the stressors, the social determinants of health that impact us on a day-to-day basis that we carry in our body. So yeah, I'm not holding on to anything. If you feel this fire, hey, at least it's not in me. I'm trying to be here and raise these children. So anyway, I'll leave that. I'll stop there.
No, that was good.
It's very good.
I wanted to speak on what Laurie saying about the crybaby. As an educator, I often go in and substitute in classes. And when the children, no matter what age, if they start the crying and the manipulation of the crying, so I said, oh, good. I could see, I use this term, I could see we don't need to send you to acting school because you got the crying part down pat. So let's not work on that part anymore. Let's work on your words. What is it you need to express to me? So I just thought it was funny how you just have to share with the younger generation that the tears are not going to work. That's not a good way to portray yourself. If the tears need to come when it's necessary for the tears, but if you're just trying to manipulate the situation with your tears, then let's not do that with the educator. Not this one anyway. Let's go with something else. Something
like
else.
I said, use your words.
Use your words. Use your words, not your tears.
It's interesting what Shay talked about is, the historical aspect of it. I was reading one time, and I've seen it a few places whereby history comes through your DNA, where we are carrying a lot of stuff when we're born. We're carrying this DNA of our history. So we are born with stressors already. And it's up to us to ensure that we try to release those stressors off of us as much as possible. So yeah, so you may see, what you might be seeing is my DNA that you caused, not what I caused.
All right, I heard that. That's good.
I'm so sorry, Regina, can I add one more thing to say about tears? So Regina, you were talking a little bit about the tears, and I'm going to put this in the chat, but it goes across all age categories, which is important. And the issue is it goes back to fragility, and it goes back to the fact that many times, and we talk about when Shavon called it manipulative spirit, and I was like, okay, that's a different way to talk about it. But what happens is when you cry, what you do is you center yourself in the issue, right? And so people run to you because of your tears, and therefore you don't have to deal with the real issue, right? So if you center yourself in it and your fragility and how it made you feel, then you're not going to address like what you did to cause harm and how do you correct it.
That's right. Mm-hmm. It's so interesting. I remember I was living in Texas at this time, and there was a huge presentation. And I took that presentation and I took it and went to the moon with it. It was over the top. It was beyond their expectation. Like, y'all gonna give me this, okay? And it was done with a spirit of excellence. And it was done in a way where the person who had to come behind me was gonna be uncomfortable, okay? And the person that came behind me was in tears, a white woman. And she was crying in the foyer, just crying, big crocodile tears. And I said, what's wrong with you? And she said, I'm just not ready. But why are you crying though? I just didn't understand. And they allowed her more time. And I was like, that's not right, but it was just, I had everything set up, the presentation, the PowerPoint, everything was on. And she's sitting there with like loose leaf paper, okay? And tears because she wasn't ready and she didn't want to come behind me, but they allowed her more time instead. I don't think that would have been allowed for me. Do you understand what I mean? And so I just, something Angela said in the very beginning, she says, why don't I get the same treatment? Why am I not afforded and extended that same type of treatment? And, I remember being in a workplace and God really covered me where I was doing 7 people's jobs and they didn't want to title me properly. They didn't want to pay me properly. And I was told I was at the highest of my pay scale, the highest paid. And I said, somebody's sitting right in my spirit, Lord. And the Lord allowed me a glimpse at something. There was an executive who had left their laptop open by mistake, and I saw something. And it hurt my feelings. It was betrayal. I was lied to. And I sat on that information for 2 weeks. I wanted to turn tables over, break her laptop in half over one of my kneecaps. I wanted to go crazy. And I just calmed down because I knew that the Lord allowed me to see something, which was valuable. And I saw it and I thought to myself, what do you want me to do with what I saw now? I know they lied to me. And 2 weeks later, the Lord opened up a door because they had the audacity to ask me to do even more. I said, this is a wonderful opportunity for me to talk about my past. And when I brought up what I knew, all hell broke loose, that I knew that I was being lied to, and I was so calm. And they ended up giving me all that and then some, but it was a white man who was doing one thing that was getting paid leaps and bounds more than me. And the one thing he was given, he was doing poorly. And I'm doing 7 things exceptionally well. That's wrong, y'all.
It is.
That's an injustice, y'all. I need to call, and I did. We need to make some phone calls because I don't want somebody else to have to go through what I went through. And those are those things.
I wish I could say that I couldn't relate to that, but I can relate to that all too well. Like, honestly, I can't even go there, but it's a reality. This is a reality. This is what a lot of, minority women deal with and face on the job. It's not equitable pay all the time. A lot of the times it's not. And you're expected to take on extra things, extra teams, extra this, extra that. Now, just to be clear, I'm not talking about my current job. I'm thankful. But in the past, I have, experienced that where I've had all of these extra duties and let me tell you, it was so bad that there was a point where my staff were basically getting paid what I was getting paid. I was getting paid like pennies more than them. And I had all of these direct reports and all of these responsibilities. And that's how, and when I brought it to their attention, oh, we're going to do something about it. Never did anything about it for years. Never did anything about it. I ended up just leaving the company. But, this is a reality that a lot of Black women face. So,
yeah, let me jump in. Of course, that's happened to me many times. But I remember going through so many processes, applying for so many jobs that I was overqualified, clearly overqualified, and being said, no. So now I'm speaking as a woman of God, because I believe everyone on here is Christians. And I remember saying, God, I can't do this. I am like broken because I am not moving ahead. And he said to me, it was never your battle anyway. And when I let it go, guess what? I didn't have to fight anymore. Ever again. I just kept getting promoted and promoted and promoted. So I'm saying that to encourage anyone that's been through that. You don't have to fight them. Your daddy's, he's already got it figured out. Mm-hmm. You weren't even supposed to have those jobs. He had something better for you. That's my encouragement.
Amen.
Thank you. I'm conscious of the time. We have about 20 minutes left, and I do want to leave some time for some questions and answers, but also I have a question to pose to our panel. And we mentioned isms before, and being professional obviously is important, but what is some advice that you could give to women who are on how to effectively communicate in the workforce, particularly when they have to disagree with a position? Like, what are some tools that you could give them? Or maybe advice, how should we approach those things?
I think it was Shaw who said earlier, oh no, it was, maybe it was Laurie, but someone said come factual. Who said that? That is always a good place to start, is come with your facts. And they're gonna test you.
They
So
are.
so come with your facts. That would be, I think, a good piece of advice.
Yeah, and probably, I think one of the things that sometimes when we come with a position, we may not be heard as much if we're emotional, because people would then focus on the emotion, as we talked about the crying situation, focus on the emotion as opposed to what we're actually, the point we're trying to make. So yes, be factual and know what you're talking about. Have your examples, have support. If you need statistics, do that. And really, I probably also add, probably don't necessarily come as defensive, because you want people to listen. When you approach a situation and you're, sort of hype or defensive, people tend to not listen. That's when if you notice, if you engage in a conversation and both parties are defensive, you're thinking about your response as opposed to what the other person is actually saying. And you don't want the person to put that wall up. So yeah,
I'm going to add to that too, Regina. Yeah, think chess versus checkers, so to speak. You know how with checkers, it's a tit for tat, this flat tit for tat. I jump you, you jump me, clap back kind of. And with chess, it's a lot of different type of work groups on the table. And you have to get a mental map and a train of thought going for your next move. I don't think sometimes we think before we let it come out of our mouth, like already kind of have, how is this going to impact? What is the cost? How am I depositing this? What is the next move? There's a little more strategy involved. There's a lot of strategy involved with chess, and a lot more problem solving. Like, what is that person's move? I need to be already a few steps ahead. So there's a myriad of different moves and dynamics. And if we think in terms of chess versus checkers, in communication, in how we navigate the room, like having a strategy, so to speak. I don't know. It's just kind of my deposit on that piece. It's more of developing a mental map and thinking things out, like your plan of action.
That's correct. And to add on to that, I would say, start from the end. What is my end goal? What is my end goal, and how do I get there? Like Shavon said, we're playing chess, and yet your end goal is to win it. And so not only considering my end goal, but who are the players? What's their personalities like? How can I feed into this? Some people are straight up people. Some people you need to massage a little bit. And so, you have to consider all of that when you are putting forth what you want to speak about. Who's your audience and what's your end goal?
Yeah, and one of the things that I always did was, if I was applying for a position, I got to know the people who were in that area, find out if you're even going to be able to work in that area, get their personalities. The other thing is, I know that they're doing a lot of behavioral interviewing. They're trying to predict if you're going to be a good fit. So they're asking you questions. Tell me about a time when and so if you've already thought that through, have your answers. Yeah, I did this. They want to know what the situation was, how you handled it, and how was the end results. If you understand that, you can get through the interview. And the last thing is to have a portfolio. Now, there's a white girl that taught me this. I have a portfolio still, I'm retired, to die for. Every time you do a good project, you put it in your portfolio. Just keep it. And then when you go in there, you have your portfolio. Oh yeah, here's some of my work. It's undisputable. That's my advice.
I think it's so important to, and I love portfolios. Actually, if you all want information about integrative knowledge portfolios and how to create that presence online, I would love to talk to you all about that. So thank you so much, Dr. King. I lead differently, right? So I'm always talking even to leaders around me about leading with the care ethic. And, one of my friends a long time ago said, love folk closer, right? I'm trying to call you in. What I realize about work is I work with you and I spend more time with you than I do my lovely family. And because of that, I'm an extremely relational leader. So I have a relationship with you. I know you, I know your children. I know everything I'm going to ask you about that. I really want to know who you are as a person. And because of that, you know, I might be able to have conversations and speak in certain ways or engage with people in a way that others will not, right? So when we get to those tough moments, when we get to those moments where you know, just to use the lingo, where I feel like you're out of pocket and I need the help, we need to have a coachable moment because of that care ethic, because I care about how are we going to continue on this relationship, then I'm able to approach this. I'm able to approach these things in a different way. Not to mention, I'm also a diversity officer, right? So I am in a place where I'm supposed to educate, right? You know, so I can't say like, I'm not here to educate you, right? So I'm here to educate and really, you know, give you a nice little taste and help you along so you can go do your own work, right? So that I think how I approach it is differently in that way. But I want to go back to what Dr. King was saying about interviewing, and we talked about fit and how that can be discriminatory. I'm at a point in my life where I wish I learned this earlier in my life, that I don't send my representative to the interview. I show up to the interview.
One.
All right. So I come full force, funky, fresh, dressed to impress, ready to party to interview, because I want you to know that this is what you're getting, because I'm too tired. I don't have the energy in me to keep changing and shifting and shape shifting and all the other stuff that they want you to do to come in here and do these roles. So I know that when I came in here, because I just showed you who I was, that you really, really want me here. So that also takes a lot of the burden off of you as a person, because it's like they really saw you and they are here to appreciate you. So I will say to you, don't send your representative, don't cover. Kenji Yoshino has a book called Covering, the Hidden Attack or Assault on Our Civil Rights. You should, I'll drop it in the chat, but that is something that we should get away from, because then you won't end up in situations where you have to cover sort of for the rest of your life in some of these roles. Because when you finally show up, that's when the rub comes, right? So just go on ahead, let them see who you are.
So I'm 2 months into a new job. And
I love it.
This is the first time in my career that I was my real person in the interview. So I speak power into those words, Sha, to be yourself and let them know what they're getting up front.
Exactly.
Yes, that was so good. Wow, powerful.
Yeah. Some of our anger may come from because we are showing up not as ourselves.
Yes.
You know, when you're showing up as someone else, you're showing that's stressful on a person trying to be two people. You're showing up two-faced. You know, so be yourself from the beginning, like Shay said, you know, show them who you are. If you love bright colors, wear bright and bold, you know, bring who you are, and it assists you with relaxing, you know, because we have been in a society where it's made to seem that our uniqueness is wrong, but our uniqueness isn't, because everybody's trying to be like us.
Hello.
That part.
Bring who you are and show up as your authentic self, as Shay said, for sure. It will reduce your stress greatly.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Another thing that I would say is also to choose your battles. You don't have to, you're not going to agree with everything, and you don't have to tell them that you disagree with everything. Like sometimes it's just not worth it. Sometimes just keep it to yourself. And again, as Laurie was talking about, look at that end result. You know, like Shavon said, have that mind map, think about where you're trying to get to in the end, and then decide whether this is really something that you want to take on, because it just may not be worth it. Just may not be that important in the grand scheme of things. So choose your battles. So we are going to move into some questions. I see we got a hand up. We got 10 minutes left, so I want to give our viewers some time. So we got Angie, you got your hand up. You want to come off mute, or so we can unmute her so she can ask her question?
Yes, unmute.
Oh, Angie, you have to unmute yourself.
I had wanted to address something about what was going on with the situation where you was talking about the how you feel about how people be addressing you and stuff, making you feel left out on a lot of things.
I was thinking about what even in Angelia's first comment about like not being seen or not being heard or being dismissed sort of in conversations. And it brings me back to the Ralph Ellison quote, I'm invisible simply because people refuse to see me, right? So I'm shortening it. It's from The Invisible Man, but it's really a play on how, you know, a lot of times when we're in these rooms or even in these conversations, you know, I feel like people have a problem with us even being heard or being seen, or the fact that we're at the table, right? And so many times what they'll do is talk over us, or try to dismiss us or not even call upon us. And when we assert our voices in that way too, that is seen as being angry, because the fact that you even have the right to be there, to be able to speak and lift up your voice or lift up the voice of folk that aren't in the room is insulting to folk, right? Especially when, again, it's hard for them to see the water that they're swimming in.
So true. Thank you for that. Okay, we have about just over 5 minutes left, and I do have a poem that I want to share with you all before we close out. And I do want to just respect people's time. So what I'm going to do is go around once more. Any final thoughts from each person? If you can just share something really briefly, and then I'll share the poem, and yeah, and then we'll close out. So final thoughts. Anybody want to go first?
So I want to say that I have never considered another Black woman, as an angry Black woman. I love Black women. I love our shapes. I love our faces. I love how we live life. And I just encourage you all to be who you are authentically and to continue to live your life as your spirit guides you.
I want to say that there is transformative power in Christ Jesus. I just want to put that out there. He does a work from the inside out, and he doesn't leave a stone unturned, okay? It's a beautiful work. It has you completely in mind, the work he does. And the more you spend time with what he says about you, more than what society says or what other lie is perpetuated about who you are, it just will bump up against the truth of what the Lord is saying about you. That's what we need to eat. That's what we need to meditate. That part, there has to be a standard, and he presents that. He's not calling you and identifying you and labeling you with a negative moniker. He loves you. He designed you as a masterpiece, and everything he put in you, he's going to use to bring him glory. He's going to use and maximize. And I just don't want you to shrink back from that. And I love this encouraging. It was nothing but iron sharpening iron on here. And I just think this is a dynamic exchange, and I just appreciate it. And I want to encourage you today.
I would say that the whole you has value, and deserves everything else that everybody else gets, and that you have to remember that first. So you granting yourself grace allows you to grant it to other people.
I love
and
that.
I would like to say that is beautiful. I would like to say one thing that I've always had in my mind. My mother only went to the 10th grade, and she was actually one of the smartest women I've ever known. And she instilled in me that if anyone else can do it, so can you. So my favorite scripture is, I can do all things in Christ who gives me strength. And I take that with me everywhere I go. And it's not just work related, it's in everything that I do. And once you get that mindset, nothing will be able to deter you, stop you, no one, no matter what they're saying, what they're thinking. You know that your strength comes from God, and you can get through it. I am so glad that I am retired, because I'm just going to be honest with you. In this climate, I don't know. I don't know if I could make it right now with what's going on, but I'm praying for you all. I love you. And thanks for this opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. King. Any final thoughts, Tesenga?
Yeah, I would just say that you're beautifully and wonderfully made to sort of build on what Shavon was saying and everybody else was saying, and that you let your light shine, don't bury your gifts, make sure that you go out there and do what you were called to do, live in your purpose, and don't diminish your light so that others, can feel better about themselves. You have a duty to live fully into your purpose and to be who you are and to see yourself as God sees you.
Mhm.
Thank you, ladies, so much. For our viewers, stay on. We're gonna have one final poll at the very end. And at this point, just a little background, a few weeks ago, I was driving to an event on a Saturday morning, and I didn't have sometimes when I'm in a car, I just pray as I'm driving. But the Lord started downloading a poem, and he just gave me the first part. And as I was driving, I was like, oh, this is a poem. Like, I'm not really a poet. Like, I don't write poetry or anything. And I was like, I got to hurry up and write this down before I forget. And all I had was just like the first stanza. And then after the event was over, I thought I was going to write it down when I got there, but I couldn't because it was busy. So after the event was over, I was heading back home, and the rest of it started to download. Like the Lord was just giving me this poem. I had to pull over and write it down one time. So I'm just saying, I'm not really it is a reflection of me and things that I've gone through, but I have never been able to write a poem like this. So listen to the words of it, and just let it marinate. Not like I'm about to sing, but just listen to the words. So the poem is called I Am a Black Woman. Threatened by the trouble in my tone and the bass and the pace of my speech as I speak passionately against the walls that have been mounted and the boxes that have me surrounded, trying to break free from the oppressive fears that have me grounded. I will not be silenced. No, I will not keep silent. But like Moses, I will go, and with conviction I will blow the voice of freedom, let my people go. And although the tone of my voice often indicts the tone of my skin, I will not be silenced. No, I will not keep silent. I have been accused even while keeping silent. So what's the point if I can't be an island? Might as well join the band. Our voices were constructed by his hand. Therefore, why must I staccato the pitch and the rhythm of my tongue when the sound of my voice was meant to be sung? A sound of praise in his ears, but for some, it brings tears. Why does the sound of my voice make you feel threatened? Stop calling the police. Stop raising false accusations. I'm standing here trying to be patient with your childish foolery, thinking that you're schooling me. Trying to keep calm because one wrong move, one wrong word, one raised voice could prove me wrong. Dang, this is new to me. Maybe I should just keep silent. They say it's golden, but not speaking up could leave me holding the bag that I did not grab, but that was given to me in haste, because their life behind bars would be a waste, but not mine, because my life, my skin is not fine enough. This is not fair to be judged by the twist of my hair, or to have the knowledge I bring to be labeled as rare. Maybe I should just keep silent. Nah, I'm done hiding. Life is a gift, and my skin is the rift that keeps you from seeing who I truly am, that makes you label me as one of them. I am not an angry Black woman. I am a loving, forgiving, intelligent, beautiful, analytical, and passionate about what I believe Black woman. Yet I feel I need a license to break this silence, lest I be convicted by the truth I have inflicted. I'm tired of smiling for no reason, constantly adding salt for season, lest my truth be rebuked and my concerns be dismissed despite being supported by statistics. Maybe I should just keep silent. That's what I keep telling myself. But God didn't give me this gift to place it on the shelf. So I will not be silent. No, I will not keep silent. Thank you. Okay. All of the claps. So I want to thank you all so much for joining. Like I said, we're going to have a poll at the, as soon as I close out, there's a poll right there. And just really quickly, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being least favorable, 5 being favorable, how useful did you find this discussion to be? I don't see, okay, there we go. All right, go ahead and submit your things. We'll show the results at the end. Once again, I want to thank all of my amazing panelists for taking time out on your Saturday to join and to pour out from yourselves, from your experiences and from your knowledge and wisdom. This has been for me an amazing time. I have learned a lot, I have grown, and I feel empowered after having shared this time during this discussion with you all. There will be other opportunities, but I just want to say, in terms of our panelists, if you want to know more about them, I do have their bios on my page, just www.justcurious.org, on the events page, and that's JUSTKYRIOS, Just Curious. Also, if you have any questions, you can put some questions on there and we'll make an effort to get them back to you. So anyway, that is it. Thank you guys so much. Love you, God bless, and go forth and conquer as women. See you guys next time. Bye.
Yeah.